Dale, arranquemos pues.
Dame un segundo, Rafael. Ok, por favor. Ok, buenas tardes a todos. Sean bienvenidos más a una sesión de traducción de documentos con la profesora Vivian Vargas. Para el buen desarrollo de esta sesión, les pedimos seguir las siguientes recomendaciones. Las sesiones se graban, pueden verlas nuevamente en la plataforma virtual. Les solicitamos que por favor silencien sus micrófonos y puedan activarlos cuando quieran hacer consultas o aportes con el permiso del docente. Les pedimos que mantengan su cámara activa. De no poder hacerlo, enviar su excusa por el chat de Zoom. De lo contrario, será retirado de la sesión y les será restado puntos en la heterovaloración del docente. Mi rol como moderador es facilitar y apoyar en la parte técnica. Consultas por el chat personal o general. Les exhorto a tener bolígrafo y papel para hacer sus anotaciones y aprovechar al máximo esta sesión. Esta sesión tiene un tiempo de duración de 120 minutos. Ahora sí, profe, le doy el pase.
Ya estaba hablando con el audio apagado. Gracias, muchísimas gracias. Hello, good evening. Welcome to your class number 4 for the course of Traducción de Documentos or as we call it in English, document translation. I'm very happy to be here with you. Remember, my name is Vivian Vargas, and I am here to have the opportunity to share all this knowledge with you. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start our class for today. And let's take a look at what we have for this class. So remember that module number 2 covers classes 3 and 4. And then we started last week talking about this. Now, in a moment, what we are going to do, first of all, we are going to start talking about the class instructions. I'm sorry. Pardon. So the class instructions, it's always important for us to check them and to make sure that we understand them very well, so we can be successful taking our classes and the knowledge we need to take in about it. Okay, so class number 1, avoid distractions. It's very important. I already put my phone away. I put it in airplane mode so it doesn't bother me at all. And I took the dog out and I closed the door so nobody can bother me right here while I'm here teaching you. First. Second, be comfortable. I'm in a chair, I'm comfortable, I'm okay, but I'm not so comfortable that I just fall asleep. Number 3, and I'm tired, believe me. Number 3, do not skip tasks. This is very important. Start with the video one, then go to the other one. Then you do everything step by step, and then first, when you go to the test, to the final test for the module, you will be able to do it sharply. And second, you will get the knowledge and you will accomplish the objectives of the class. Number 4, read objectives carefully and understand them. You need to make sure that you understand the objectives, since it is very important, because if no, you don't know what you are going to do. So if you read the objectives, as we are going to do now, then at the end of the classes, you say, the objective was got it. I got the objective because now I understand this very well. Now, number 5, this module is covered in 2 weeks. That's what we said before, okay? Now, the objectives for the module were, number 1, were state the different techniques used for translating documents. That was number 1 that we did see last week, okay? On the 9th, because we couldn't do it on Monday because of the Fiestas Patrias. But we're going to check a little bit about this now. And the second one is apply translation techniques to simple patterns. And we are going to be working on that today more than anything. We are going to be translating this into English or into Spanish in order to help ourselves, okay? Now, last week, we were talking about translation techniques. And then at that moment, we were talking about 3 of them that were like the most important ones. Do you remember them? Yes, we have them right here. One was borrowing, the other one was calque, and the other one was literal translation. Now, we were talking about mnemonics that were ways that you could go ahead and look for the way to keep the information in your mind easy. And then we have the example of acrostics, is that when you make a sentence and the first letter of the sentence means something else. And then we talk about, chunking, and it's when you take numbers and then you divide them into chunks, okay, pedazos, and then you are able to memorize them easily. Then we practice some examples for chunking, then we practice some examples for acronyms, and that way we did. So let's review about these 3 translation techniques. Borrowing. Borrowing is when you take words like, and I gave you examples, cafe, resume, fiancé. Those are words that come from hamburger. Those are words that come from another language, and then they were put into English. Here in Panama, I put you examples like, for example, tough. You listen to people here in Panama saying things like, esto está tough. And they don't speak English, but they say esto está tough. Tough is an English word. So that's an example of borrowing into translation, okay? Now, calque. Calque is when you take an expression for a language and you put it into, you translate it word by word, okay? And then we had an example of Adam's Eve. And then you say Adam's apple. And then you say la manzana de Adán. You just translated it like this, and then you put it like this. And we are talking about expressions. And then we have the other one that is literal translation. And for the literal translation is when you put like word by word. You make absolutely no changes, okay? Let's continue. And then we were talking about that last week. We had the opportunity to see that. We had the opportunity to check oblique translation techniques. And then in that, we were talking about things like, for example, we were talking about transposition. That is when you, and then I gave you the example of niño bonito. In Spanish, you have the noun first and bonito, the adjective later. But in English, you have bonito niño because you have say beautiful child. So in that way, you are making a transposition. And then relation and some of others. And then I asked you to research examples of like translation techniques. And that was it for that class. Now, translation methods and techniques. Give me a moment. Give me a second. There's a moment. Give me a moment. Let me go out here. Give me a second. Let me go ahead and do something here. So, just review. Give me a moment. Okay, so just review. What techniques did we just learn about or review about in this case? Because that was something that we did last week, okay? That was just recapping for everything for you now that you are watching the video. What techniques did we learn last week? So we talked about borrowing, calque, literal translation, and then we learned about the oblique translations, where you have things like modulation, transposition, and some others. being transposition, like one of the most often ones that you can, okay? Now, today, we are going to focus on methods, and we are going to focus on translating, okay? Now, the kind of translation we are doing today is for general translation. It's not specialized translation. That is what we are going to do for next week, okay? Most likely. So let's take a look at a video that talks about translation and in methods, translation methods, okay? Now, notice it's not the same. Techniques is one thing. Methods is another thing. Técnicas es una cosa y métodos son otras. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the translation methods. When we talk about translation methods, what we are talking about. Give me a moment. Let me go ahead and check this. Okay, give me a moment, please. No, that's not, this isn't what I want. Okay. It doesn't let me open. Let me go ahead and do this. I need to copy something from here. Okay. Let me go ahead and do this and paste it here so you can be able to see. The moment that this is just charging. Give me a moment. Give me a second. I'm trying to do this. The thing is that okay, let me make it bigger and let me go ahead and do this. Okay, here. Let me see if I can do that. I'm sorry. Should be coming. Okay. Here it is. Give me a second. I don't want you to see the.
What's a guy got to do to join this spider team? I have written so many superheroes, and then I came to
Getting a business translation that's fit for purpose should be easy, right? Well, not always. That's because there are several different types of translation available to business clients with big differences in the translation quality, cost, and timeframes involved. To get what's right for your project and not pay more than you need to choose the right type. This video gives you the essential information to do just that. Hi, I'm Dennis Brown, and our company has been providing translation and interpreting services to clients across many business sectors for over 20 years. In this video, I'm going to quickly explain the 4 types of translation most commonly used in business, the pros and cons of each, and what types of project they are best suited to. First up, we have machine translation, or MT.
Okay, let's pay attention to this, okay? So we're talking now not about the technique, in the language itself, but the method you use to translate, okay? So the first one is the MT. Let me go back a little bit. You can take note of this. The first one is that's why.
The project they are best suited to. First up, we have machine translation, or MT. This is a translation produced entirely by a computer program with no human linguistic input. You simply type or paste in the text you want translated, select the languages, and voila. Google Translate is the classic example. Now, the obvious advantages of machine translation are that it is virtually instant and free. What's not to like about that? Well, the problem is that the quality of the translations produced is very patchy. You're likely to get some sections that are excellent, but other wording that's unclear or even incoherent, and crucially, some parts that are just plain wrong. That makes it of limited use in business, as it's not suitable for any text where accuracy and clear understanding is needed. If a mistake or poor wording could have repercussions or damage your company image or reputation, you can't rely on machine translation. Machine translation is best used just to get a broad understanding of what a text is about and the gist of the meaning. Our second method starts with a machine.
Okay, so what do we do in the first one? That's something that we usually do. Let me go ahead and do something like this for you. Give me a second and let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and do this. Let me do something. Okay. Let me look for some information that we would like to read. Let me see. Think of a topic. Let's suppose that we are talking about a boxing match description. Let's suppose that we have something like that. Let's make it a little bit complicated. Okay. In here, I'm gonna go and get something here, so but I cannot. Let's go ahead. What I'm going to take here is a test from, it's an example of a matching description. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here and I'm going to do this. So this is empty. This is machine translation. You go to, there are many translators, but then you go to this one, to Google Translator. Just click here. It's in English. What happened? Okay. So it says, they tested each other, jabs and blocks. Okay. Henry fainted. And then it says in Spanish, Henry hizo una finta. Una finta. And then it says, I landed a good blow. Asestó un buen golpe. Do you speak like that in Spanish? You say, él le asestó un buen golpe. And then it says, on Mike's ribs, en las costillas de Mike. But the follow-up, a hook to Mike's gut. Pero el siguiente, un gancho en la mandíbula de Mike. Dice, caught air as Mike astutely pulled his head back. Quedó atrapado en el aire. El golpe quedó atrapado en el aire. A stupid mistake. Mike thought, but gone from his mind in a moment. That's what coach says. Dwell on the past, you'll die in the present. Un error estúpido, pensó Mike, pero se le olvidó en un momento. Eso es lo que dice el entrenador. Piensa en el pasado y morirás en el presente. Now, my question for you is ¿todo está mal? ¿Todo está mal? No, no todo está mal. There are things that you could use. There are things that people can read and they can relate to that without getting bored or thinking, I don't understand, what is it saying here? However, there are certain things like quedó atrapado en el aire, that doesn't make sense. Or Henry hizo una finta, or asestó un buen golpe. So in this case, this is empty. This is machine translation. And the problem with machine translation is this. It does translate, but it does not always, it keeps like the human part out, you see? So it does not always give you something, a text first that is accurate, and second that you can relate to, okay? Because for example, give me a second. If you are talking about, let us continue with the thing. If we are talking about Literature, for example, we are talking about a novel. Have you heard of Orgullo y Prejuicio, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen? That is a beautiful movie, but it's also a book. And then you take a piece of the thing where she's really, then Mr. What was his name? Miss Elizabeth, I don't remember his name. They are talking, you know, having this conversation with these words that they use because both of them are very smart and very educated. And then you put it into the translator and blah, 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 but it doesn't describe the feelings. Let's continue. Let's take a look at the second method.
Machine translation and then adds a human translator review. We call this review post-editing and the type of translation post-editing machine translation. The idea is for the translator to fix at least some of the problems with machine translation and so create a more usable text. However, post-editing can involve different steps and levels of complexity and have different objectives and outcomes in mind. So it's essential that client and editor are on the same page as to what the editing process will and will not involve, and most importantly, the level of translation quality the process is expected to achieve. In my view, the most useful and probably the most common post-editing process is simply to ensure all the text can be understood without worrying about quality of expression. The editor will fix grammatical errors and tidy up any unclear or confusing wording and obvious mistranslations, but won't touch wording that's a bit awkward or unnatural but still understandable. This light post-editing process generates translations that are more accurate and more readily understandable than straight machine translations. However, they have two remaining shortcomings. Firstly, they can still contain actual translation errors. This is caused by the machine choosing the wrong meaning of a word, which is a common problem with machine translation, and this not being obvious to the editor, not being corrected. And secondly, the wording won't be completely natural, as the editor hasn't been tasked with making the text read beautifully. We consider this type of translation as being suitable for information purposes only, and it can be an excellent option when that's all that is required. Providing the initial machine translation is reasonably good, which largely depends on the languages involved, these translations can be faster and cheaper to produce than using human translators. Now, in theory, an editor could spend more time using a more thorough process and create a high-quality translation from the machine translation draft. But in practice, this is problematic, for reasons I won't go into here but explain in some detail in my blog article. Suffice it to say that this type of translation process is not well suited to producing high-quality translations. Whenever you need to be sure a translation is accurate, well-worded and natural sounding, you're much better off using a human translator, which is our third type of translation.
Okay, so we were talking first about MT, machine translation. Second, about PEMT, okay? That is where you have, it says, post-editing machine translation. That is what we were trying to do here. Go ahead and check for this. Go and check for this. I'll show it to you. So, we are talking about two people here, boxing. My question is, it says, they tested each other. Se pusieron a prueba unos a otros. Does it make sense to you if it's boxing, it's only two people, como unos a otros? So how would you change that? What would you put? It says, they tested each other. What would you put in that sense? For example, let me think. Se probaron el uno al otro. O se pusieron a prueba el uno al otro. And it's not as easy as that. I mean, I'm giving you options, but then something good for you to do is to go into Google, to look for words, to look for things that you may say, you know, but definitely uno a otro se va. Golpes y bloqueos. Okay, el jab. Maybe you may use jabs and it looks here. Because it's a jab, it's what you usually call it if you want to keep it like that. So you could make a borrowing there and just use ya, okay? Generally printed and landed. It's una finca. And you go ahead and you look for a meaning that is more suitable to this. And landed a good blow on Mike. Y le dio un buen golpe a Mike en las costillas. Okay? Le dio, it doesn't have to be. Now, if you want things that I cannot look for it, suppose. Let me go ahead and look for in a second. I know you cannot see, but I'm going to look for another definition that we may use for it says for deal. Okay. Landed good deal. How do you say that? You may go ahead, looking for the information, and it says le dio un buen golpe. Okay? It says le dio un buen golpe. It doesn't say anything. So I'm going to continue here. And then it says, y le dio un buen golpe en las costillas de Mike. Y dio un buen golpe en las costillas de Mike. Pero el siguiente, dice, pero el siguiente, un gancho en la mandíbula de Mike quedó atrapado en el aire. Quedó atrapado en el aire. Hot air as Mike. ¿Qué podríamos poner allí? Okay. Imagínate, entonces hay que imaginarse el tercer aquí. Le da el otro, pero el otro se desvía, el otro echa hacia atrás y ¡pum! ¿Dónde da? Quedó atrapado en el aire. Would you use that expression? Okay, ¿qué podríamos usar? So you see all the time I'm extending here. Because usually people think a translation is not that complicated. You put it there, you put it here, but it depends. And he said something very interesting there. He said it depends on the purpose of the use of the translation. Because if it's something that you're just doing an internal process or something like that, it's okay. But if it's something that you are doing for a client where you have a commitment to deliver a very, very good, accurate translation, because, for example, a contract or something like that, then you need to be able to do something that it keeps the same meaning and sense that the other one. So quedó atrapado en el aire. I would use se fue de largo. Se fue de largo cuando Mike astutamente echó atrás su cabeza. Echó su cabeza hacia atrás. Un error estúpido, pensó Mike. Pero se lo olvidó en un momento. Pero lo olvidó rápidamente. Pero se le olvidó de uno. Eso es lo que dice el verbo. Piensa en el pasado, no en la gente. So you see how things change over here? Let me go ahead and reshare this again and show you in a second. Let me go ahead and continue checking the video. And now we are going to go to the last level of translation, okay? That would be the human. Second.
Say that this type of translation process is not well suited to producing high quality translations. Whenever you need to be sure a translation is accurate, well worded and natural sounding, you're much better off using a human translator, which is our third type of translation. Producing this level of quality is not possible with straight machine translation and is a complex, difficult and lengthy task with post-editing machine translation. But it is precisely what professional human translators do all day, every day, and with relative ease. As always though, you need to use the right translator. Translation is a difficult skill and remarkably few people are able to do it well. We have articles discussing the skill set required and the translation process that needs to be followed, but essentially you need an experienced, professionally qualified translator with a good track record of quality work, or a translation company that employs such translators. Anything less and you're simply gambling on quality. With the right translator, you can expect a completely accurate translation with excellent quality of expression that will be of publishable standard. And you'll get that with no time or cost disadvantage over the machine translation plus post-editing method, and with noticeably superior wording. However, it does need to be recognised that, like everyone, human translators do sometimes make mistakes. So without a second translator review of the translation, which is our final method, there will always be a risk of inadvertent inaccuracy or omission, which is why we recommend translations by a single professional translator for non-critical business documents. The fourth translation type, human translation plus revision.
Okay, so he uses an interesting word here. It says,
which is why we recommend translations by a single professional translator for non-critical business.
Then we have a human translator. So let's go back. You have the MT, the machine translation. Then you have the PEMT, is that post-editing machine translator. Now, what happens with the post-editing machine translator is that it's exhausting. Because then, anyhow, you have to go and read the thing, and then you have to come back and read what is translated. Because if not, you may find that certain word was not translated the right way. I mean, for example, a verb like get. Get es conseguir, get es llevar, get es tener, get is so many things in English. And then if the translator chose one and put it there, and it was not the one that you needed, then you focus on it and you use it, you see how you put it there, and you do everything. But it wasn't the right thing, so that means that the translation is not going to be very accurate. Okay? Then we have the human translation. The human translation, you go, you read, and then you as you read, you type, as you read, you type, as you read, you type. Okay? And then you know that what you are doing, you're doing. You don't have to go ahead and read it in English and read it in Spanish, or no, as you do it, you do. And then, of course, you have to check your things and everything. However, they recommend you here that this one professional translator is only for non-critical business documents. Okay, it's not a contract, it's not a code, it's not a, something that is not like the like the deal that you are having or whatever your company depends on that. Okay, and let's continue with the last one.
Business documents. The fourth translation type, human translation plus revision, produces the highest level of translation quality and is recognised as best practice. It meets the requirements of EN 15038, the quality standard for translation service providers. The method comprises an initial translation by a human translator, followed by a full review of that translation by a second translator. This review is designed to pick up any accidental errors made by the initial translator, confirm the translation is 100% accurate, and polish the final text. So it's part safety check and part refinement of wording. This type of translation will be appropriate for all purposes and is particularly recommended for essential documents and whenever accuracy and quality of expression can't be compromised. Being the highest quality level, this is the most expensive method of the four and requires the longest turnaround time. So those are the four types. In comparing them for translation quality, we've seen how machine translation produces low quality, that this can be improved with human post-editing, but is surpassed by human translation, and the highest level comes from human translation plus revision. As you'd
Okay, very interesting, right? Machine translation, it has low cost and it has low quality. Machine translation with human editing, post-editing, then it's going to have a little bit better translation, a little bit more the cost and a little more the quality. The human translation is going to be coming too high, and the quality is also the same. And then finally, the human translation plus review, that is the last one that they are saying, is the one that is made, that is the most expensive, is the one that takes longer to have it done, but it's also the highest quality. It's the one that you can trust. Why? Because I'm going to translate the document first. And then when I finish everything, or as I go ahead and I do things like, let's suppose it's 5 chapters. When I finish my first chapter, I give it to my partner and I continue. And then my partner is going to revise the original with what I did. And it's going to say like, you know what, I think we could change this word for this one. Why? No, because of the, okay, yes, you are right. I missed that. So it's way more difficult that after 2 people looking at the document, the translation, they just miss it. It's a little bit more difficult for this to happen. Okay, let's continue.
Expect this increase in translation quality comes with corresponding increases in turnaround time and cost. The 4 methods each have their merits and are essentially suited to different requirements. So we recommend selecting the type of translation to use based on the level of translation quality you need and the purpose of the translation. Here are 4 rules of thumb we suggest you use. 1. For simply getting the gist of a text, free machine translation is ideal. 2. For information purposes only translations, where some less than perfect wording and the risk of the odd mistranslation can be tolerated, machine translation plus light editing is excellent. 3. If you need to be sure the translation is accurate and well worded, human translators should be used. And 4. For essential business documents, and to cover off the possibility of inadvertent translator error and ensure the highest standard of expression, choose human translation plus revision. Check out our longer blog article.
Okay, we finish here. So let's recap on this. Okay, and now we are going to take a look at the things that we have in the article, in the article in the class. Okay, now let's take a look at this. Go ahead and just to check it like very, very shortly, we are not going to stay here. So this is what you have in the platform, okay? Types of translation. And then you have here there are four main methods. Let's review them. MT, machine translation. We already spoke about it. You just put the information here. It gives it to you. It's free most of the time for most of the things. And that's it. What are the cons? The cons is that the wording is not very good, that things may be mistranslated or even put the same thing, or they just look for a word that is similar to the one and they just put it there, and you know. So it's not that you should not use it, but as he said, just to get the gist, to understand, this is what he's talking about. Okay. Then machine translation plus human editing, PEMT. That is the one where you go ahead, you put in the translator, and then you go ahead and you edit it. And you see what was good or what was not, as we saw it in the translation we did in the translator about the boxing thing. Okay. Then we have obviously in this one you can make mistakes because you are reading this and then you find it acceptable, but you maybe didn't check exactly what was there, and then you may miss or skip or miss, yes, a mistake there in wording or in grammar or in meaning. That is more important. Okay. Now, human translation. Human translation is this. Human translation is when it's done by a professional translator. They go ahead and they do it, they check it, they do everything, and it's going to be more expensive than the other. And then we have human translation plus revision, that is the last one, where after the translator does it, then someone comes and a second translator comes in, and then they check for the translation. This is the one that has the best quality, because if a translator that has to work so minutiously, so thoroughly misses something, the second person is going to be able to see. And then, for example, if we are going to talk later about legal translation, we are going to talk about legal translation, medical translation, literary translation. In these cases, this one would be the best option because it's going to give you the final touch that is going to give you, most likely is going to be the best. Okay. And then we have also the literal translation. Well, this is talking about some things. This is talking about the techniques, and then this one that you do it word by word. And then we have the faithful translation. Let's read it. It says, focuses on the intention of the author and seeks to convey the precise meaning of the original text. Okay. In this one, you wanna try to help the person that is reading to understand what's happening there. And in this one, you want to convey exactly the meaning, so nobody gets lost. We have the other type of translation, but this is not what we were talking about. We were talking about the meanings. So let's go ahead. Let's go back. And then
Dígame, teacher.
No te llamé, mi amor.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so we were here talking about this. And then we are going to continue with it. After watching and discussing the video, now is your turn to work. Remember to use the techniques. I mean, borrow with calculate and literal translation. It says, using machine translation plus human editing, EEMT, translate the following document about millennials and generation Z, okay, or Z generation. Let me go ahead and share this with you. Let me go ahead and do this. Okay, now, sorry, give me a second. This is the document we are talking about. Okay. So I ask you to use the machine translation and then you edit. So let's go ahead and let's do this. It says, también conocidos como la generación mini, ¿sí? De pronto los avances crearon un desconcierto en ciertos casos. Sus padres, los baby boomers, querían dar a sus hijos todo lo que no pudieron disfrutar a ellos, por eso les concedieron todo. El problema, pensaron que la vida era más sencilla hasta que se enfrentaron a ella. Y les tocó vivir un momento muy difícil, la gran crisis económica a finales del siglo XX. También se les conoce como la generación y tienen entre 24 y 41 años. Y sí, entre sus filas se encuentran muchas frustraciones y sueños rotos. Tuvieron que esperar mucho para poder emanciparse y algunos emigraron en busca de trabajo a otros lugares. Reconozcamos bien. Ha sido una generación muy criticada, pero con muchas cualidades, pero no con muchas cualidades. Son los primeros nativos digitales y aunque no tenían las redes sociales, supieron hacerse a la era digital con mucha suerte. Aunque les tildaron de egoístas e individualistas, la verdad es que son los grandes comprometidos con la naturaleza, con los diferentes movimientos sociales y con la alimentación sana. ¿Cómo son? Los grandes frustrados y rebeldes. Amantes de la globalización, se consideran ciudadanos del mundo. Interesados por proteger el planeta, muchos de ellos obsesionados con la alimentación sana, desafiantes a las normas establecidas, autodidactas, autónomos, dispuestos a trabajar en equipo. ¿Okay? Y esta generación, según parece, va desde 1981 hasta 1986. So what we are going to do is that we are going to check this. Let me go ahead. Let's go on to the translator. In second. In a moment. Let's go ahead. And then I want you to help me with this. Okay, let me look for a nice part of a paragraph. Of the paragraph, we can do something nice. Let's do this small. Okay. Yeah, the millennials, and let's go with this part here. Okay, let me go with you. I already copied from there. And now we are going to go to Google Translate. We are going to do it, and then we are going to polish it. Okay? Like, for example, here. So, is it from Spanish? Give me a second. From Spanish to English. So it says, también conocido como la generación mini, also known as the mini generation. Suddenly, the great advances created a confusion, a certain chaos. Their parents, the baby boomers, wanted to give their children everything that they could not enjoy themselves. That's why they were granted everything. Okay? You can say that's why they were granted everything, or you may say everything was granted to them. The problem, they thought life was simpler until they faced it. And they had to live through a very difficult time, the great economic crisis of the late 20th century. What do you think? I like it. The only thing I could change is this one. Because in Spanish, we always put here, todo lo que ellos, por eso les concedieron todo, a ellos. So in English, I do it the opposite. That's why everything was granted for them or to them, okay? But that was a very good. The rest of it, I think it's, something okay, a lot. Let's continue. Let's go to another piece of this. And then you see, it's not that you cannot use it at all, but you need to check if it's suitable for what you are doing. Give me a moment. Let me go ahead and share this. Go ahead and share this. This one. They are also known as Generation Y in this case. They are between 29 and 41 years, and yes, among their ranks, there are many frustrations and broken dreams. Okay, you continue among the ranks. They had to wait a long time to be emancipated, and some emigrated and looked for work in other places. Let's face it. It has been a very criticized generation, but not with many qualities. They are the first digital natives, and although they did not yet have social networks, they knew how to adapt to the digital age with greatness. What do you think? I like it. So in this case, for this type of text, it's just perfect. Let's continue. When you look at the one and you look at the other, you say, like, you know what, this is good. And second, let's go with this part. Let me go ahead, take this away, and let's see how we go with the list of the qualities. Look at this. As they are, doesn't make sense. So it would be, how are they? Okay? Because como son, as they are, no, how are they? And then we say, the great frustrated and rebellious, lovers of globalization, they consider themselves citizens of the world, interested in protecting the planet, Many of them obsessed with healthy eating, challenging established norms. No. No. Challenging to start moving, challenging to establish norms, I guess. And then you have self-taught, autonomous, they find it difficult to work with. So you see what I mean, or what the video meant? In this case, it's really, really good. We just had this over here that if you are not careful, you're gonna be like, what? However, the rest of it is very acceptable. So this is what it is. Let's continue with another part of the. Give me a second. Let's talk about the other ones that are the Generation Z, also known as the centennials. Give me a second. And let's see what happens here at this moment with the video. Okay, so let's go. We got the text over here. Like this was work for you to do in class, but since I'm here alone, I'm just doing it for you, okay? It says, they are the so-called centennials, the first natives in the first natives of the new 21st century. Without a doubt, they must be passionate about social networks. They demand information that comes to them digitally. Now they are between 12 and 26 years old, between 10 and 14 years old, according to OECD. And so the vast majority are teenagers or have just entered the world. Okay. How do you find it? I found this part, I found it, I mean, super. I mean, it's just perfect. So you see what I mean? When you are taking this type of translation, you don't really know what you are going to be doing or not doing over there. Hola, Bey. How are you?
Good night, teacher. I'm good. How are you?
Okay, happy to see you here. Okay, now we are working day. I'm gonna go back to you for a second. Last class, I was talking in the class, if you had the chance to check the video, I was talking about the techniques for translating. And today we have been talking about the methods. And then we said that there are 4 main methods, 4 métodos principales de traducción. Okay? The first one is the MT, the machine translation. That is the one where you just put the thing on the translator and what comes, comes. Lo que salió, salió. That is one. The other one is the PEMT, post-editing machine translation. And it's when what I was doing right now, let me show you. What I was doing right now, where you just put the text over here, then you get the translation, but then now a human being is gonna check it, as I was checking, to make sure that everything was correct. There is a third one, and it's the human translation. There are no machines like this, okay? There is nothing like this. The human just goes on the thing, and then they read from the text, and then they just type what they are typing one language, what they are reading in the source language. And then the last one, and it's the best one, is when someone takes the text, they just translate it on their own, and then a second translator comes in and then reads and checks if it's correct or not. Do you follow me, Dave?
I think so.
Okay, so I explained 4 types of translation, 4 methods to translate. Machine translation but with human checking, human translation, and human translation with another human checking. Eso fue lo que expliqué. ¿Qué entendiste? Cuéntame.
Que hay diferentes tipos de traducción.
Ajá. ¿Cuántos son? ¿Son many?
4.
4. You have to try to speak English. Okay, 4. Then, estos 4, these 4. So, el primero, I'm going to say it again and then you say it to me. MT, Machine Translation. The machine does it all, como el que te mostré ahora. The second one is Machine Translation with Human Editing. So you translate it, but then a human checks to see if it's correct. The third one is just human translation, one person translating.
Teacher, what is a mini machine?
Machine es máquina. Okay, this is a machine.
Okay.
Esto es una máquina de traducción, en el sentido de que lo hace, hay muchas cuestiones de traducción. Yo usé el de Google Translator. Y entonces ahí yo nada más le coloqué el texto en español y él me lo da en inglés. ¿Ok? Entonces, está el Machine Translation, que es cuando haces esto. Nada más pones aquí, pones acá, y lo que te dio, te dio. No sabes si está bien, si está mal, si hay una parte que no sabes. Tú nada más le pusiste. ¿Ok? Después de eso, we continue with the PEMT, que es también Machine Translation, pero después que hice esto, a human, una persona viene y revisa a ver si está bien. ¿Me está siguiendo, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Después de eso está el Human Translation, donde sencillamente yo tengo un texto aquí en inglés y aquí lo voy yo solita lo voy haciendo, escribiendo en un Word. Abro un Word y lo voy traduciendo al español o al inglés. Y por último, y después yo lo reviso y eso. Y por último, está donde el Human Translation with Help, que es cuando yo cojo y traduzco, y después viene Day, que también es traductora, y yo se lo paso, y ella viene y lo revisa también conmigo, para ver que no haya ningún error. Entonces, el video que vimos ahora, que está, no está en la plataforma, pero está en las diapositivas, ese video nos muestra que Machine Translation, o sea, este es el más barato, pero también el menos accurate, o sea, el menos confiable. Machine with Human Editing es menos barato y un poquito más confiable. Después sigue el Machine, el Human Translation, que es mejor, pero todavía se le pueden pasar unos errores. Y después sigue el Human Translation con ayuda, que entonces como él lo hace y después lo revisa y después el otro lo revisa, es el mejor de todos porque es muy difícil que haya errores. Did I explain myself? Dave?
Yes, teacher.
Now, I'm going to send something to you by the chat. No, by the chat, no. I'm going to share it with you. Give me a second. Dave, because this was what you had to do. Now listen. I need you to go to a translator, okay? I need you to put this information in the translator. I'm going to send it to you anyhow. Give me a second. Give me a moment. I'm going to send it to you. Tú lo vas a poner en Google Translator. Y después que lo pongas en Google Translator, dame un segundo. Después que lo pongas en Google Translator, y te muestra la traducción de lo que dice, tú vas a leer. Vas a leer allá en inglés. You're going to read what you have.
Todo o...
Por chat. No, sí, te lo mandé por chat. Listen to me. Vas a usar un Machine Translator. Puede ser Google Translator. Metes la información en español, te la va a dar en inglés. Pero después you have to polish it. Tú tienes que pulirla. Tienes que darte cuenta que lo que te dice sea correcto. O sea, entonces miras aquí y miras
Sí,
allá.
porque a veces eso traduce como, por decirlo así, como se dice, o sea, a lo cholito.
So you are going to do that, okay? You can, I'm gonna turn off, if I turn off my camera, you can still see it.
Sí, teacher. But eating.
Huh?
Now I'm eating.
And now you're eating. Okay, so listen, let's do something. Take 15 minutes, okay? Take 15 minutes, and then in 15 minutes you are back and you have done this. So you have the time to finish eating and then to do this, okay? En 15 minutos te veo. Y en 15
Okay.
minutos debes haber terminado de comer y haber hecho esto, ¿ok?
Vale, gracias.
Hello. How are you, Gislen?
Hello, teacher. I'm good.
Okay, I'm happy that you're here. Now, Gislen, I'm going to send you by chat. By chat, Gislen. Look at your chat. Did you see it in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, I need you to take that information and put it into the Google Translator. You are going to translate it from Spanish to English, okay? But then you are going to polish it. You are going to make sure that it makes sense, everything that says there, and that is in a way that when a person in English reads it, say like, okay, this is correct, okay. And they don't say, oh, no, who translated this? They didn't know what they were doing. This is a disaster. Do I explain myself?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, so take the information and then I will see you here at 7:20. I'll be back, okay? 7:20, I'll be back, and then you guys show me what you have done. Okay. Are you ready? Could you do it?
Yes.
Yes, you could do it. Okay, thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share. I don't know what happened that the thing stopped sharing. Give me a second. Give me a moment. Let me go ahead and do this. Could you please, is it possible for you to send me through the chat what you did, what you translated? I mean, the final translation that you have. Please send it to me by chat. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. How beautiful your hair and your haircut. Okay. Let me go ahead and let me put this here. Check. Let me go here. Yeah, a second. Let me do it shorter so they can look here. Let me see if I can make it small. Not that small. Okay. So I have here. No, let me do it like this. Wait, I'm gonna show you what I'm doing. Can you see what I am? Hello, Gislin. Thank you for showing. Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look. X and let's go with this one. So the idea is that we didn't have like exactly the same. I mean, the idea is that we did it and then we checked how good it was or how we could change something so it could sound like more in the language, okay? So can you read, please, for me, the one in Spanish day, and then just let you read it in English? Go ahead. So, son los llamados centennials. Read that paragraph, please, just then. No, sorry, they. The part in Spanish. Son los llamados centennials. Can you read it? No. Okay. What are we doing?
Esa también había que traducirla. Es la que
Yes.
tengo.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's what you did. It's what you did. But what I want to know, I just want you to read. I want you to read the paragraph in Spanish.
Solamente lo leo en español.
Yes, please.
Son los llamados centennials.
Continúa. All the paragraph.
¿Sí? Todo. Ok. Los primeros nativos del nuevo siglo. ¿Qué siglo es ese? ¿Cómo?
Can you read?
Ese siglo.
21.
Siglo XXI.
Ok, voy de nuevo. Son los llamados centennials, los primeros nativos del nuevo siglo XXI. Sin duda, los más irreverentes. Apasionados de las redes sociales, devoran toda la información que les llega de forma digital. Ahora tienen entre 12 y 26 años, entre 10 y 24, según la OCDE. Así que la inmensa mayoría son adolescentes, acaban de lanzarse al mundo laboral.
Thank you so much. Now, what year were you born? What is your birthday day?
1st July.
What year? What year were you born?
Tengo que decirlo en inglés, ¿no? Puedo decirlo en español.
Okay, go ahead.
En el 2000.
So you are here. You have, how old are you right now? Because, so you are a Generation Z. You are also also called a centennial. Okay.
Yes.
What about you, Gislin? Gislin, what year were you born?
1998.
1998. So you are also a Generation Z, okay? So let's take a look at the translation in English. Can you read it, please, Jocelyn?
They are known as Centennials, the first native of the new 21st century. Undoubtedly, they are the most irreverent, passionate about social media. They devour all the information that comes to them digitally. They are currently between 12 and 26 years old, according to the OECD between 10 and 24 years old. So the vast majority are teenagers or have just entered the workforce.
Thank you so much. Okay, only two things to check. Just how do you pronounce your name again?
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine. Okay. Now, Ghislaine, I want to try not to forget how to pronounce it. Now, Ghislaine, natives, okay? Natives. And 21st. That's why you have the ST here, okay? The rest of it, very good job. Now, they and, okay, this one here is the translation of whom? The same one. Or one is Ghislaine and another is they. It's the same translation. Or I didn't erase the other one. Did you have the chance to send yours, Ghislaine? No. Did you change anything or you put it just like this?
It's the same.
It's the same. Okay. Now listen. Do you think that what says here is exactly the same that says here? Or you would change something or anything? There is no right or wrong answer. It's just what you think. I would like to know what you think. What do you think? Check it and say if it's the same or no. Take your time and let me know.
Teacher, ¿cómo pronunciaría sin duda?
Sin duda, you have there without any doubt. Where is it? Where is it, sin duda? Like you have it there. Undoubtedly.
Esa.
Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. You don't pronounce the E over here. You say undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. Okay, so what do you think, guys? It's good? Do you think it's good?
I think that's correct.
That's correct. Okay. Now, in the video that I checked before, in the class, before you came in, the video showed that this machine translation, this, Google Translator or any other translator that you use, it's good enough for the normal text, okay? Like not important texts, just like this, things like this machine translator is good to do it. However, let me see if we can go ahead and check another case. Give me here. Let me go ahead and show you something. Give me a moment. I'm looking for something that I'm going to show you. Give me a second. I'm going to take it from here. I'm going to put here Google Translator and here we go. Now, what I'm going to put now here is a text about boxing. Boxing. So let's see. It says, can you read the first sentence in English until rounds, please, Dave, until here, until rounds, until the period?
¿Cómo digo esa palabra? Judges.
Judges.
Judges. The judges scored no other points for the first 3 rounds.
Okay. And then the translation until here, until roundas. Can you read for me, please? Glenn?
Los jueces no anotaron otros puntos durante las primeras 3 rondas.
Okay. So you think that's correct? Do you think the translation is correct over there? What do you think?
¿Se puede poner el no así?
Yes, you can put, I mean, this one is correct, definitely. The judges scored no. You could have said the judges did not score no other points without the no here, but it's correct, it doesn't matter. But what we are checking is, it's not this. This is okay. What we're checking is that if we translate it here, if it's translated correctly. What do you think? Is it translated correctly? Ghislaine, what do you think? Is it correct?
Yo diría que sería como los jueces no anotaron más puntos durante las primeras 3 rondas.
No, another.
Los jueces no anotaron más puntos durante las primeras 3 rounds. In Spanish, tú dices cuando estás hablando de boxeo, do you say ¿se fueron a la segunda ronda o se fueron al segundo round? Dave, what did you say?
Round.
Exactly. That's something that the thing is that if you go ahead and you check the class that we had before and the one that I reviewed today at the beginning, we were talking about something that is called borrowing. I'm gonna put you here in the chat for everyone here. It is called borrowing. Borrowing is when you take a word from one language and use it the same in another language. Borrowing es cuando tomas una palabra de otro idioma y la tomas. Denme un ejemplo de una palabra en Panamá que usa el panameño que no es panameño, que no es español, que no es español y
Pretty.
¿Cómo?
Pretty.
Pretty, exactly. Pretty is an example of borrowing. It's an expression that you took from English and then you put it into Spanish, but now apply to translation, no? We say. Another one, Ghislaine, another expression that you use in English, that you use en español, you usas aquí en español, pero que no es de español. Ujú.
Cool.
Cool, ajá. No, eso está cool. O nada de que cool, cool. ¿Cómo estás? Cool, cool. Ajá, cool. Now, there are some examples of this in English. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Give me a moment. Okay, now, in this case, for example, in English, I'm gonna give you some examples in English. For example, café. Café, no es café de nosotros. In English, they say, let's go to the cafe, but they are talking about la cafetería, okay? Or for example, resume. I don't know how to put it backwards, but it's something like, here, I have it, resume. Resume is a French word, café also. They are French words. Resume, I sent it to you by chat. It is for hoja de vida, para tu curriculum, but they say resume. Another one is fiancé. I was with my fiancé. Let me see if I did it right. Fiancé. Yes. My fiancé. What is my fiancé in English? Who can tell me? What is my fiancé? Look for it if you need to. Take your time. Look for it. Look for fiancé with a stress on the E. Fiancé. Fiancé.
Prometida.
Mi prometido, mi prometido. Depende. If the woman has a boyfriend, she says, he's my fiancé. Si ya él le dijo, yo quiero casarme contigo. And then, si es el hombre que tiene una novia y ya le propuso matrimonio, entonces él dice que ese es su fiancé. ¿Ok? Y esta palabra viene del francés. Now, for example, hamburger. We say hamburger and then we say in English. Who can tell me de dónde tomaron la palabra hamburger los ingleses? ¿De qué idioma tomaron la palabra hamburger? Who can tell me? Look for it. Hamburger. Where did they take the word from? Del alemán. They took it from German. It's a German word, but they say hamburger. Okay? So this is called borrowing. Now, what happens? Sometimes you are translating something. It's in English. You are translated into Spanish. Okay? Some words, for example, hamburger, you have hamburguesa in Spanish. And some of them, fiancé or some. But there are some words. Let's suppose that someone is translating something from English to German. And then you're translating a conversation from two Panamanians. And the Panamanian dice, eso está pretty. So you have to put in English. In German, you have to put, eso está in German. Pero el pretty, you have to write it igualito que lo escribe el panameño. P-R-I-T-T-Y. That is called borrow. Okay? Now, let's take a look at what we were talking about in the boxing thing. So we are going to keep, give me a second. We are going to keep the translation of rounds. Entonces, then you may say something like this. Los jueces no anotaron más puntos durante los primeros 3 rounds. You keep it. That's borrowing. Okay? Lee la segunda oración. Read the second sentence a day in English, please. From there to calling.
The audience restless cat calling.
¿Cómo hacen los gatos cuando están así todos que están así? ¿Cómo hacen los gatos? Pero no, el sonido. Cuando tienen una pelea en el techo, ¿cómo hacen? Y uno escucha acá abajo la pelea en el techo de los gatos. Yeah. Okay.
Hace
Exactly. So, it says, the audience, ahora, acuérdense de esto, niños. Cuando tú lees the, si la palabra que sigue comienza en vocal, esto suena the. So you say, the audience. Me estoy explicando. Pero si la palabra que viene comienza con consonante, por ejemplo, car, entonces esto suena the. So I say the car, but then I say the audience. ¿Me estoy explicando? Okay, good. So the audience grew restless cat calling. The audience era el público, ¿no? So we say, el público se inquietó y empezó a gritar. ¿Ustedes creen que les parece que eso suena natural en español? El público se inquietó. No. Piensen, ¿qué otra expresión? Yo estoy pensando aquí con ustedes. ¿Qué otra expresión pudiéramos usar ahí? What other expression? En vez de inquieto.
Se molestó.
Ok, pues, podría ser. O se emocionó. No. Porque dice, grew restless catcalling. Podría ser se molestó porque no veían que no pasaba nada o lo que fuera, o porque veían para ellos parecía que la pelea no estaba avanzando y no estaba pasando nada, ¿no? Sin embargo, vamos a ver qué sucede. So, el público se molestó y empezó a gritar. Veríamos en panameño, el público se emberracó y empezó a gritar. O el público, así podría ser. And then, no, hay otra con C, ¿no? El público se K, pero esa no la vamos a usar. Entonces dice, porque dice catcalling, o sea, se estaban locos. Ok, lee por favor Gislen, desde tú hasta ser. To them hasta ser. Dale.
To them, nothing seemed to be happening, but Mike felt Henry's tiring head lost a tick, as the coach said.
Okay, thank you. Now, can you read the one from para tu entrenador, please, Dave?
¿Desde dónde?
Para ellos, hasta entrenador.
Para ellos parecía que no pasaba nada, pero Mike sentía que Henry se cansaba. Había perdido un tic, como dijo el entrenador.
Let me go. Now, you are translating this. ¿Ustedes saben qué significa había perdido un tic? No. Entonces, el entrenador, usted es la traductora, and you don't know what that is. So, what you do now is that you open another page, and then you say, ¿qué significa haber perdido un tic? No, tic en el ojo, perder un tic. So, here, aquí usted puede ver que no existe una expresión para haber perdido un tic. Entonces, ¿qué te toca hacer? ¿Cómo tienes que traducir? Si no hay una expresión en español para eso, ¿qué te toca hacer? ¿Qué piensan ustedes? No hay respuesta incorrecta. Ustedes digan y si no es, no es, no pasa nada. Dice, había perdido un tic y dice, como dijo el entrenador. O sea, él estaba repitiendo una expresión de su entrenador. Entonces, si tú estás traduciendo eso y lo que te traduce es había perdido un tic, porque aquí dice, it lost a tick. ¿Qué te toca hacer en ese caso? ¿Qué piensas que te toca hacer como traductor? ¿Qué piensas que te toca hacer como traductor? Then, here is where we have something that is called calque. Okay? Calque is when you translate things literally. Okay? Porque tú no tienes una expresión en tu idioma, entonces tú lo que haces es que lo traduces tal y como dice ahí, pare de contar. Aquí hicimos algo llamado borrow. Cogimos una palabra, ten atención, aquí cogimos una palabra, rounds, y le pusimos aquí una palabra igual a la palabra del otro idioma. Eso se llama borrow. Y aquí hacemos algo que se llama calque. Calque es cuando traduzco eso literalmente como está ahí, porque yo realmente no sé. Eso no se sabe qué es. ¿Ok? Dice, como dijo el entrenador. Vamos a seguir, ya casi terminamos. Entonces dice, can you read for me, please, Dave? From now to price. Aquí, now to price. Dave.
Now was the time to pay attention. Don't lose a tick. Watch for that drop word. Keep your eyes on the price.
Can you read for me the one in Spanish, please? Gislen, ahora.
Ahora era el momento de prestar atención, no perder un tic, estar atento a esa guardia baja, mantener los ojos en el premio.
Thank you. So, this is perfect. This is the original language. Ahora es el momento de prestar atención. Okay? Now, I want you to look at something. La tercera técnica de traducción, primera borrowing, la segunda calque, no, las más conocidas pues. La tercera literal translation, cuando traduces palabra por palabra. Ahora dice, now, ahora, was, era, the time, el momento, to pay, de prestar, attention, atención, don't lose a tick, no perder un tick, watch for that drop guard, estar atento a esa guardia baja. Keep your eyes on the prize. Mantener los ojos en el premio. Este es un ejemplo. En esta parte del idioma, el idioma te permite hacer una traducción literal. Word by word. Palabra por palabra. Pero dentro de esto pusiste no perder un tick, que es un calque. ¿Ok? Entonces, Gislen, ¿qué es un borrowing? ¿Cuál es la técnica de borrowing?
Cuando traduces tal cual está.
No, borrowing. Yo te lo puse en el chat. Yo se lo mandé en el chat. ¿Cuál es borrowing?
Cuando se usa la misma palabra en inglés y
Ajá,
en español.
exacto. Cuando vienes y pones la misma palabra de inglés y la pones en español. So, eso fue lo que hicimos en round. ¿Ok? Now, day. ¿Cuál es calque?
Fue lo que dije.
Ah, la que tú dijiste borrowing. Ahora, ¿cuál es calque? Cualquiera de las dos. ¿Cuál es calque?
Bueno, en antes, creo que es la misma que dije,
No,
que
la
era
que
cuando se traducía tal cual estaba ahí.
Ajá, cuando se traduce, ¿cuál está la expresión? Por ejemplo, don't lose a tick. no, ¿cómo se llama? No perder un tic. Como no sabemos cuál es, entonces la ponemos exactamente igual porque no sabemos, eso no sabemos qué es. Y la otra es literal translation, que es cuando puedes hacer lo que se hizo, por ejemplo, aquí, ¿no? Now, now, was, time, time. O sea, cuando puedes traducir palabra por palabra exactamente sin cambiar el orden de nada, eso es literal translation. Now, Ghislaine, read here from be patient to the end. No, mi amor, I'm not listening to
Be
you.
patient.
Ajá, dale, 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 dale. Ahora sí. Ajá.
Be patient. Take your hit. That's pretty boy bitch will make a mistake.
That pretty boy bitch. Okay. Can you read the one in Spanish, please? You laugh. That word you know, huh? That word you know. Go ahead, Dave. Read here in Spanish.
Ten paciencia, recibe tus golpes. Ese lindo chico perra cometerá un error.
Okay, good. Now, be patient, ten paciencia. Recibe tus golpes, take your hits, recibe tus golpes. Pero ese lindo chico perra, ¿eso tiene sentido? Does it make sense? Okay. What do you think? How do you think you should translate it? Que se mantenga, pero que se oiga bien. Y cometerá un error, está bien, pero... Let's suppose que lo estás traduciendo a español panameño, para que no lean los panameños. ¿Cómo sería?
Yo diría bastardo.
Bastardo. Ajá, ese es lindo el chico bastardo. Ese. Ok. Dave, what would you say? Les he hecho la nota, me ha dado risa. Ajá.
Ah, desgraciado.
Ok. Por ahí ven. Ok. Now,
No es ofensivo. No es tan ofensivo.
no, exactly. No es tan ofensivo, but it could be like, in this case, even though you are talking about a girl, in Spanish you can say esa perra, but you will know that you are talking about a boy without saying. The thing is that in English, remember that you need to have the noun, because if not, you don't know what you're talking about. But in English, you may say, in Spanish, you may say, esa perra cometerá un error. And both of them know they are talking about the other boxer, right? So this is the way it goes. I'm going to say it in English and then I'm going to say it in Spanish. When you translate, you may use the translation machine because it makes it easy, definitely. If it's a short test overall. But you need to make sure, you need to read anyhow, whatever you have in English, you need to read it. And then you need to put that into Spanish. And you need to read what is in the Spanish, and then you need to make sure it sounds natural. The wording sounds natural. And it's something that people can understand. Now I'm going to say in Spanish. Aunque lo hagas, aunque uses la máquina de traducir, tienes que estar pendiente de que suene natural, de que las palabras que usen sean palabras que en este contexto o en ese idioma donde lo estés traduciendo, la gente pueda entender. So let's take a look at this. With this, we'll finish our class for today. Let's take a look at this, what we have for the assignment for this module. This is the second class of the module. We have one on Thursday, and then we have this one today. We finished module number 2. So we have the forum. The question is, what's the most difficult translation technique? Remember, the techniques the most common are borrowing, calque, and literal translation. Which is the most difficult for you and why? Then you have to translate a paragraph from Spanish to English, following the instructions that you have in the platform. And last but not least, you have to take the test, okay? Now, remember, you should visit or you can visit the virtual library anytime that you want, because that way for university or for anything that you may need, you may find information that it may be good for you, okay? So, what questions do you have, Ghislaine? No? What questions do you have, Dave?
Teacher, I don't have questions.
Okay, thank you. Now, just to remember, the idea of this second session of the module 3, the objective of the, let me show you. The objective of the module, let me show you just to finish. Okay. Let me go ahead and show it to you. A moment. The objective for this module was, for this part, this we did it last week, but this part was apply translation techniques in simple paragraphs. Is what we did today, didn't we? Today, we translated paragraphs and we checked for the techniques, okay? Now, so this way you know that the objective of the class was fulfilled. So this is it for today. Thank you for being here. It would be nice if you can be here next week for the class earlier so we can start, because we are going to be talking about, I think, legal translation. And then I have to explain, and then when you come in, I just keep going because I cannot go back. So, but it would be nice if you can come a little bit earlier, and then we can catch up, and I can help you better, okay? Thank you so much. We finished for the day, and thank you for coming today. Mi querida moderadora. Hello. Hello.
Teacher, estoy aquí.
Okay.
No me he ido.
Terminamos por el día de hoy. Gracias.
Ok, teacher. Y bueno, me alegro que hayan aparecido 2 estudiantes en esta sesión. Así que bueno, muchas gracias a ustedes, queridos estudiantes, por participar. Y nos vemos en una próxima sesión. Bye, teacher. Bye, todas.
Bye bye.